Welcome to episode 30 of Descent Into the Wormhole, where we discuss everything from ancient civilization to modern day social issues and everything in between. I'm Les.
And I'm Stevie J, and today this is part 2 of our Hollywood Decoded series, talking about movies and the predictions that they made and whether they came true. So let's dive right in.
Yep. So
Yes.
onward we go.
Yes.
Forward we move. I like this one. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I love this one. I don't love that the government is toying with things like this, but I have more than once said, I wish I could eternal sunshine my own ass. Like, I really wish I could, because I have experienced things that I just would prefer to wipe them out. I have experienced people that I just prefer I didn't experience. So I have said it a few times, and what the government is working on it. And there is words of like hypnosis and things like that, that the government is saying that you can wipe out memories and insert new ones. And I do believe, because I do believe we can do that. We can definitely do that. It's all a matter of, I do believe, changing the emotion around the thought, and then it becomes different. But they're working on this. They are actually working on Eternal Sunshine.
Yep. They are. There's so
unbelievable.
many. Yeah. And I'm with you. Like, I'm with you. The sunshining of one's own ass. Yes. I'm with you, because we've all got things that we would like to erase. Now, this could be, and it could be things that have happened to us, but it could also be, in some senses, things that we've done as well. Like,
yes,
because we're not always proud of things that we've done in the past.
Right.
So we might want to sunshine those things. But you're right. It's happening. It's happening now. Like, it's
happening.
Muskie's got a thing where they can implant into people's heads. You know.
Looking for human trials.
Yeah. Bill Gates.
I'm sorry, but isn't Elon Musk the dude who said AI is terrifying because once you turn it on, there's a good chance you'll never be able to turn it off? Why are we letting this man implant things into our brains? Why?
Exactly. Well, he could be AI himself.
I've always wondered if he's real or not.
It's AI.
I've always wondered.
AI Elon. Like, and I think, but you're right. Like, whoa. Society.
Let's pump the brakes.
Pump the damn brakes here. Like, why are we letting things in our head like that? Like, why would we let any implants get put into our heads? Because again, like the AI example there, once it's in there, like, I'm no freaking neurosurgeon. Like, I can't come to you, like, you're a smart lady, but I can't come to you and be like, hey, cut my noodle open, will you? And just take this thing out. Just fix me up.
No. I can't do that.
I mean, you could, but me living is probably not going to happen.
It's not going to be a great outcome for you.
Right.
Nor me, because you know what? The government's going to come like 2 days beforehand to say, you're going to do this and it's going to hurt Stevie. So no, we got to stop you. And then I would say, government, you're right. You are correct. That was going to go sideways quickly.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, once the cake is baked, and we've talked about this with like vaccines and stuff, there's no one doing it. You can't unbake the cake. You can't unring the bell. And once it's in you, the damage is done.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're so trusting, you brought up Bill Gates. Why are we so trusting of this gentleman? And I don't know if I'm a hole in the ground. I've never had a conversation with him. I am not trusting him.
No.
With my body.
But like, now, there's also people out there, companies, businesses out there who want to be able to remove the consciousness, and are even saying they can remove the consciousness from people and implant it into another body or into a robot, into other beings. So, and like with Bill Gates, I don't trust that guy as far as I could throw him. As far as I could throw him. And with that massive wallet, I can't throw him very far. So why are people so trusting of these people? Why is there so much trust and faith put in these people? Like, don't go anywhere near my head, please.
No, please. Exactly. And when you say like Avatar, like moving consciousness from one to another,
Yes.
that was actually on the list too. Avatar's on the list because there were like DARPA is working on that,
Mm-hmm.
moving consciousness from one person. And they
Yeah.
say like this is just a shell, right? This is just the vessel that
Mm-hmm.
we're trucking around in.
Yeah.
Once we're done with this vessel, we'll go on and we'll go off to do amazing things. So is it possible? I
Well,
have no idea because
yeah,
I don't know what consciousness is.
that's right. And how does one prove that? Like, if you're going to do a sales pitch, how are you going to go, all right, step on down. We can take that consciousness out and slip it right into something else.
Yeah.
But how do you prove that that worked?
Right.
There could be,
Because I'm dead.
there could be a consciousness that wakes up in the new vessel. How do you prove that that's that person's consciousness?
Yeah.
You can't. You can't do that. And look, I agree. Avatar's a great example, and DARPA again, which is James Cameron, and Terminator's
We'll get
James
into
Cameron,
him.
and so there's a lot to talk about there. But in Avatar, they do that shift of consciousness, but it's through a natural method, through the earth and through energy and through a tree, and like so that kind of thing. That kind of thing does make sense to me. Like
Yeah.
that does make sense because it's almost like not in the film directly, but it's an allusion to reincarnation as well and things like that. So I do believe that kind of thing can happen, but
Absolutely.
forcing it to happen using computers,
James Cameron. He's got a whole lot of movies that have a whole lot of interesting things behind them.
They do.
And who was James Cameron before he was James Cameron? He was always James Cameron, but
Yeah.
let's be honest.
He was Mahatma Gandhi. No, he was he was a truck driver.
Yeah.
He was a truck driver. And he was a I think he worked in like a restaurant or something. Like he was in terms of film, he was a nobody. He was a nobody. And then Terminator happened.
And who works for DARPA?
Well, James Cameron's sister allegedly works for DARPA and has a whole lot of inside information. And now, when it comes to this whole connection and flow on, what did DARPA work on in terms of, I don't know, something that could be related to Terminator?
Oh, I don't know, robots.
Oh, that's right, robots.
Yeah.
So you have James Cameron, essentially a nobody in the filmmaking business in the beginning.
Yeah. He had no experience, none.
Nothing. Not a scientist either, not a physicist, nothing, like none of that. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to be and that you're not smart if you're not. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But in terms of what he came up with for Terminator, in terms of the filmmaking and the idea, the execution and the idea of robots and, a little too convenient for me.
Yeah. And because when you look at Terminator, you look at all his movies, you think like he is just like he's been mastering this entire life.
Yeah.
And maybe he does have a natural talent. Maybe he does, but there are a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions around a lot of people who seem to be just all of a sudden know how to do things.
Yeah.
They're wondering if they may like deal with the devil and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not deal with the devil, but maybe, deal with the Masons. Like there could be a deal with someone somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, really odd. Like, look what he was able to create straight out of the gate.
Yep.
And it wasn't a fluke because he did it over and over and over again. But the fact that the machines took over the world, this was the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, if that was the outcome, we will never, ever know that Terminator turned out to be true because we will all be dead.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. We will.
We won't know.
We won't be here at all.
Yeah. We won't know. That's the terrifying part. We don't know how that story ends because we won't be here to witness it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be gone.
Yeah.
We'll all be gone. But, thinking back as well, like we're in 2022 now? And the first Terminator came out in 1984 and they were already having those plans, like as in building robots, and they were doing all of that stuff already in DARPA. So now, geez, how many years on is that? Like 50 years on? It's absolutely insane. Hang on, not 50. What was my math
30.
going? 30. Sorry, 30 years later.
30.
Well, and so Terminator 2 obviously, and the rest of the Terminators kind of flow on from that. But Terminator 1, Terminator 2, they're the big ones. And Terminator 2
2
really...
was the best, I feel.
Oh, 2 was absolutely the best. Still a fantastic bloody film. But I think Terminator 2 went into more of the philosophical questions around, if we do this today, what happens down the track there, and how does this impact that, and, all these things. And then it tied humanity in as well. Like, Sarah Connor goes to kill the guy who created, like, Cyberdyne Systems or whatever, Skynet.
Yeah.
But what does that do to humanity as well? Like, if we become that, then are we just the same thing? If we're just going to go around killing people all the time when they're going to do something we don't like, doesn't that just make us, like, why would we be worth saving as a human race if that's what we're going to do anyway? And that's like, true. And that's why, like, even in the film, and it does, because it's action based and all of that, a lot of those subtle things get missed. But like John Connor he's touted through the series as the savior. Like, he ends up being the savior of the human race later on in the future. But if you look at the signs, especially in Terminator 2, of his humanity, because the Terminator wants to kill, first of all, a couple of douchebags on the side of the road. And he tells him, you can't do that. He doesn't let him kill them.
Yeah.
Then he wants to, the Terminator says, it's not a good idea. I'm computing. Not a good idea to go and try and save your mother. And John says, no, that's bullshit. We're going to go save her anyway, because I'm not just going to let her die. And then when they figure out, they're sitting there in Mexico, and they figure out that she's on her way to go kill Dyson.
Dude, yeah.
The dude, he goes, holy shit, we've got to go stop her. So he is that thread of humanity throughout the whole thing, and doing all of these things to actually save and preserve human life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes sense that in the future he would be that savior. But, the following Terminator movies really ruined all of that, because they kind of lost the plot, really, literally. But there is all of those humanitarian things in there as well. But the ideas, and like getting back to DARPA and James Cameron, like all of these ideas and things that, have come out. And I've got a question for you. Avatar, right? Like, and people do call it Dances with Wolves in space or Pocahontas in space, which I get, because it's essentially the same plot line. But I've got a question. Like, is that actually something like that happening somewhere on another planet?
It could be.
I don't know.
Could it be happening in the next layer over in the veil? Like, we just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
We don't know. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. Like, being in this matrix of whatnot, we actually have no idea what is going on.
Yeah.
And who's going on. Like, I love the idea, especially in Avatar 1. I love the idea of the trees being one big brain.
Yes.
One big circuit board, and they're all, and every tree is connected. All the roots are different connections. And I love that, because I like to think that that's true.
Yeah, me too.
I really do like to think that like, it, as above, so is below. If we're all connected underneath, and we're all connected up top, consciousness. I love it. And maybe that struck a chord with people, because a lot of people said, like, for whatever reason, they loved that movie, but they don't know why.
Yeah.
I think it's because it tapped into a soul truth.
Yes.
Something we just inherently knew, and it made us feel better.
Yeah. And there is that emotion as well.
Yeah.
Inspiration coming from what happened in that with the brain, like the tree brains, and feeling bad for the native people who had their big tree blown up, and then and the consciousness and everything like that, everything being all connected. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that is true. I feel like that is the way that it is, because you look around, you just take a walk. just take a walk and just look at things, and you go, well, everything is connected. It's all connected somehow. But I think, like you said, and you used the word of the veil, like the human species, we think we're, as a species, with the bee's knees, we're the duck's nuts, and we're the shit. That's what we think. But
I don't know why we think that.
But why do we think that? Like, what in my view, what reality is we're the stupid ones walking around banging into walls, and the rest of nature and the rest of the universe is looking at us going, look at these people. What are they doing?
Idiots. Yeah. Well, because the animals are free until the people tell them they can't be free anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
We're just the ding dongs walking around going, oh, I can't see anything. Nothing's connected because I'm not connected. Nothing's connected because I'm not.
Because I unplugged myself at a very young age. I unplugged myself.
Yeah. But before we get off James Cameron, we have to talk about this because we're nearly we're coming up to nearly finish time, but we need to talk about this because this one blew my freaking mind when I heard about this. The Titanic.
Oh.
The Titanic was like one of the first false flags in history.
Yep.
My mind is still blown.
Yep. We may actually have to do like a full investigative report on this one because man, oh man, because really, if it wasn't for the Titanic, we may not have the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
The Federal Reserve may never have actually happened if the Titanic didn't go down.
Okay, so we're definitely going to have to do a full episode on this. But
yes,
but tell the people why. Tell the people why we may not have had a Federal Reserve.
J.P. Morgan owned the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he was trying to get all of the rich folk to agree on this idea of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve only came in 1913. So he was trying to get all of them on board. So the people who weren't, and you're going to love my symbolism of using the onboarding. The people who weren't on board with this idea were invited to go on the maiden voyage of the Titanic. So everyone who was in opposition of the Federal Reserve was on that ship for that trip.
Yep.
He was supposed to go there because it was supposed to be a mastermind meeting to see if they could smooth everything over. Did this fucker not get a phone call before the ship took flight? And he wasn't on that thing.
Nope.
Because of a phone call.
Yeah. Oh, so convenient. Yeah.
What phone call was more important? I'd love to know what phone call was more important than to getting these people to agree to the fucking Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
What was more? So nothing was more important.
Nope.
This is no coincidence.
No phone call.
No phone. No, I don't think there was a phone call at all. Nope. Mm-hmm. And look what happened.
Yep.
Look what happened. And there's actually rumors that the Titanic was not the Titanic. The Titanic was actually the Oceanic, and the ocean, like it was insurance fraud. They switched the names of the boats, and the Titanic was actually never really a stable ship to begin with because she'd already been in an accident, and because they were parked somewhere they shouldn't have been, kind of like on the road. They were parked somewhere they shouldn't have been, and how they got hit and who hit them, the insurance wouldn't cover it. Mm-hmm. So they kind of patched her together, threw another name on her, called her the Titanic, and let her go.
Wow. And the other thing I find fascinating too is that the Titanic was a twin, right? Mm-hmm. The Titanic was a twin. Yeah. Yeah. Twin ships. So they looked exactly the same, these ships. And and so we will definitely cover this in more detail. But the other thing too is that when you think about it, the Federal Reserve was J.P. Morgan's baby, right?
Yeah.
And if people don't know J.P. Morgan, we've got lots more coming out on that guy. But he essentially bought up massive portions of the world way back when, and still owns massive portions of the world right now. But to get the Federal Reserve put through, literally the resistance to the Federal Reserve being implemented sunk on the Titanic. That was the entire resistance to the Federal Reserve. And what happened shortly after? Oh, the Federal Reserve came into effect.
Yep. Not too long later.
Yep. And not too long after that, we started getting screwed even worse. All of us.
Yeah. So very, very interesting that that ship going down changed the course of our financial future and, you know, the industrial complex and all that. But James Cameron, he throughout the entire movie, I didn't realize this, but time is very important. Like wherever you go, there's a clock. They're all changing, like they're all making sure that the time's right, especially like even when the ship's going down, the guy changes the time.
Looking at the clock and changing it.
Yeah. He changed the time. And if what this gentleman, his theory was about it, and I tend to agree, is that he was symbolizing it's the end of time. It's the end of time as we know it, and it's the end of the Yuga cycle. We're moving into a different era, and everything that we knew of before pre-Titanic is going to be no more.
Yeah,
because there's pre-Titanic and then post-Titanic, and shit.
Did shit change after that? And not long after that too. So 1913, Federal Reserve. 1914, World War I started. Huge events changing the world. And things were never the same, were they? But that's so interesting because I didn't realize that clock thing either. But time's a thing, and checking pocket watches, and like there's always a time thing happening. And of course you've got the division of classes again in that movie, which, you know, Avatar's the same. There's a division of classes there, and it happens so often that we see that. But it's very interesting when you think about all of those rich people and what they were meant to be doing, as in they were going to be opposing JP Morgan and the Federal Reserve. Yeah. And the fact that everybody went down. But it just shows you that all the way back then in 1913, a long way from 9/11 and the Twin Towers, but false flag. There you go.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of shady shit when it comes to Titanic.
Yeah.
And I know there's people out there would even like to say it didn't happen, but it did. It happened, just not in the way they like to explain it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it was an iceberg. And neither do some of the people who survived.
Yeah.
Because they said that it was a very rocky ride. Like I've been on ships, and the only time you notice that you're moving really is at night when you're sleeping. Like you just feel the slight rocking. Other than that, I don't get see, like I have no issue. Yeah. They said it was rocky, that there was like weird noises, and like they almost felt like a rudder was off, and that would make sense if it was a different ship, one that had already been to an accident and was not insurable, and apparently not even sail it. Like they just patched her together real quick, sent her on her way. So what did they know that she won't last? Like she just won't last.
Yeah.
So let's sink her.
And there was reports too, and we'll have to dive into this, but there was reports too that they were pushing it really fast. Like they were going as fast as the ship could go, which if it was falling apart, like you say, or it had a rudder issue, and you know, it was a piece of junk at that point, then the faster you push it, the more it's going to fall apart and all those things as well.
I'd also like to know for my final question of the day on this one, I'd like to know who was it. JP Morgan who requested the lifeboats be not enough for everybody?
Screw you. I was just thinking that there wasn't there wasn't enough lifeboats. Was that him? Yeah, because you hear that.
Was that him?
And you kind of hear that said and you just dismiss it because they palm it off as, oh, well, they were so confident it was such a good ship that it would never sink. But let's find some more out on that, because I feel like there's just heaps and heaps and heaps to dive into there.
Yeah.
Heaps.
Yeah, so very interesting. But I think James Cameron nailed it, like with all the clock, because it was
a shift.
It was a shift in reality. It was a shift in everyone's reality. It was a shift in how everything was done.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, like, we all know how the Titanic ended. Like we all know, we watched it. I watched it later. I have an affliction to like big blockbuster movies where everyone's raving about it. I'll watch it 5 years later. I do not want to be disappointed by someone else's raving over a movie.
Well,
But when I finally saw it, I was really glad that I did, because going in, but it got that emotion. You fell in love with these people, and they were, and you knew what was going to happen. Like that was the thing. You're falling in love with these people knowing damn well that it's not going to end. This isn't ending well.
Yeah.
It's not ending well. So, and fear and sadness, and he has a way of evoking a lot of emotion, that guy.
Yeah. It does it really well. And in that one too, like you're right, you have a connection, you get attached to these characters, and you know what's going to happen. I mean, I do have one nitpick with the direction or the writing on Titanic, and that's just the bit where there's all this debris floating around at the end, and and they have to just decide between that one door. Like, they grab something else, and
there was plenty of room on that door. Let's be honest.
Exactly, and so they
both fit.
But this part, right, where she goes, "I'll never let go, Jack," and then literally lets go. Just write that differently. Just edit it differently, please. Cameron, you listening to me? Go do it.
Fix it.
But what I need to know is, and this is an important question I'm sure everyone watching or listening will need to know, is do you think, so we're talking about the what really happened with the Titanic, I need to know this. Did that scene with the window and the foggy window and the hand, was that reality? Did that happen to somebody on the Titanic?
I'd like to think it did.
Good.
I like to think it did happen to someone on the Titanic.
Perfect. Me too. There's hope. There's hope for the.
There's hope. There's hope. One can only hope that they snuck in for a little jolly session.
A little foggy hand.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Apparently it is. I don't know, but apparently it is. It's foggy hand.
The final one? The Matrix. This one. There is, I feel we could do, much like Titanic, I feel we could do a whole masterclass or a masterclass on this one. Because the guy who did the CGI, the guy who was doing the CGI for Matrix, he actually perfected CGI and went on to work for DARPA. There we go, DARPA once again, getting their fingers in with movies, DARPA and the Pentagon. So my question, it kind of ties into my question of like, why would a phone have an agenda? Why does the Pentagon...
Ring, ring, I'm dead.
Why does the Pentagon need a CGI expert?
Well, at this point, I want to say to project an image of Joe Biden that's actually alive.
Okay, I like it.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. Why? What is the purpose of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they? Is there a? I mean, now that's kind of a philosophical, rhetorical type question of why the hell would you need that? But maybe are they trying to come up with cloaking devices that use CGI? Like, are they trying to come up with clothing? Like, who knows? But
I think it's for media. I think it's for media manipulation.
Crazy, isn't it?
Because they said like his work is so good, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah,
you can't tell the difference between reality and his work. So I think it's for media manipulation.
Right.
What's his name? Paul Dobrovec is his name. And he is the master of CGI. So he worked on this movie, and they think it was one of those just planting the seeds of things that could come.
Yeah.
Just planting the seeds, and the interconnection of terrorist. Anyone thinking outside of the Matrix was considered a terrorist. What's happening now? Anything who thinks outside of the box, what are they being called?
A terrorist.
Oh, look at that.
Crazy terrorist,
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
But we're unacceptable human beings.
Talking about terrorism as well in the Matrix, the scene where he's getting interrogated by Smith, and he's, the one where his mouth gets covered over and everything. Well, when they bring out his stuff and his passport's there, what's the date on that passport?
Yep.
9/11. And let's not, for anybody who's watching, listening, whatever, The Matrix was released in 1999, not post 9/11. So it wasn't like, hey, let's just put this Easter egg in there. No.
Yeah.
It was before.
Yeah. And it was September 11th, 2001. And I'd love to talk to those people who decided on that date and how they got to that date. Because when you tie it back to the terrorist, like Morpheus, they considered him a terrorist because he thought outside of the Matrix. And what did they say caused 9/11? Terrorists.
Right.
So it was like almost molding our brain in a way of thinking of terrorists, anyone who thinks outside the Matrix, anyone who isn't part of the social schematics and all of these things are not good people.
Yeah. And
then coming out with that date, I'm very confused, but I have a lot of questions.
Oh, absolutely. But you're so right when you say it's almost a side-by-side look at how things are in reality. You know, like, I mean, I know I can't fly yet, but in terms of the reality, so the real world, everybody's just plugged in, everybody's just got to do what they say, and if you go against it, you're a terrorist, you've got unacceptable views and all of that.
Yeah.
But it also ties into almost everything we've talked about today, like the whole technology thing and the AI. So the AI comes alive, says we don't need humans anymore. We nuke the sky. There's no more sunlight. They figure out a way to generate power. And what is that? By sucking the energy out of us. And I actually feel like that's very much, maybe not in that exact way, in that exact method, but I feel like you replace the robots with the powers that be, the people who are in charge of the world right now. And they are literally sucking the life out of people for their own benefit right now.
Yeah.
And if anybody wakes up to that, much like the Matrix, anybody pulls the plug out and wants to defy that or go against that, well, what happens to them? They get put down the chute, out they go, and you're no longer a member of society anymore. Unacceptable.
Yep. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. They're making people not part of society anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. Very, very, very odd. And the symbolism throughout the entire movie, like there's books within all the different scenes of that, and all the books are related to living in a matrix, essentially living in this thing.
Yeah. And
I would love to have a conversation with the people who wrote this. I would love to, like, how did you get there? Because it goes into like the trilogy, like it just continues on and on and on. But the main focus of like the predictions and the predictive programming, I do believe comes from the first one.
Yeah.
Like they just absolutely nailed it. And I think everyone is Neo, honestly. I think everyone is Neo.
Yes.
No one can realize it because you have the rest of the people saying, well, no, you're not.
Yep.
You're not special.
Yeah.
You're not the one.
Right.
What the fuck do you think you are?
And I think it's funny too, because it's he doesn't realize he's the one until he lets go of wanting to be the one. So because he gets told that, you know, by the Oracle what he needs to hear and all of that, right? But he basically resigns himself to say, well, I'm not the one, right? That's cool. But he also says, well, I do believe, even though I'm not the one, I do believe I can go and save Morpheus. Like, this is when Morpheus is tied up in the building and that. And he's like, well, forget being the one. I just know I can do this. Like, let's do it. Like, I know I can do it. And then all of a sudden, what does that do? Well, that belief, just that belief in himself manifests, and well, there he goes. He's the one.
Yep.
And he can do it. And they tie love into it as well with Trinity, and like, you know, that's love wakes him up, I guess, from when he dies. But you know, all of it is such an interesting film. And you're right. I mean, I would love to have whatever they were smoking when they wrote it, and B, have a conversation with the Wachowskis about it. Oh, definitely a Jeffrey and a furry wall. Like,
Definitely that was happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to, because they're fascinating. Just the way their brains work to make that all happen, and certain dates and certain things and certain theories, and
Yeah.
where'd you come up with it?
Yeah.
Was there was a knock on your door, and someone whispered into your ear all of these things? Did you have a dream? Did you have a fever dream like James Cameron? I don't know. I got a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
James Cameron likes to say he had a fever dream. Yeah,
not
I
buying it.
don't know about
How
that.
many of these dreams can one have?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
the other one about the Matrix 2 is the references to Alice in Wonderland. There's many
Yes.
references there. So like Follow the White Rabbit and
And white rabbits are they're hypnosis. They're in alignment with hypnosis.
yep, and the red and the blue pill, and he says, well,
Yep.
take the red pill, see how far the rabbit hole goes. Like,
Yep.
it's a very, very clever film, very clever. And I don't know about you, but the first time I went to see it, I still remember the first time I went to see it at the movies, and I was just kind of sitting there like, mind blown, like that could be real. We don't, and
We don't know.
would never know.
Yeah.
We would never know. And so many fascinating lines in there too, like dialogue, like where Morpheus is saying, what makes it real,
Yeah.
If you're talking about what you can see, taste, and touch, well, then it's your mind that makes it real, because it's just electrical impulses in your brain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I just love it's just very, very well done. Very well done.
Amazing. So if anyone hasn't seen it, highly recommend it. Keanu did such a great job. And all of them actually. Great movies.
Yes.
Great movies. And watch out for these things. Because now that I pay attention when I'm watching now, and it's funny what you find. And I'm finding that a lot of these Easter eggs and a lot of these predictive programming is done by movies that are going to be hits, that are going to be watched by millions of people, not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. How did they do that? How did they know that something is going to be such an intense thing that, or were we subliminally created to like it? Where our minds melded into saying, you're going to go watch this movie and you're going to watch it over and over again because we said so.
Ooh, I think that's a definite possibility. And also, is it a case of but combine that with the weaving of truth into these films, and knowing that people will get a glimpse of truth in there.
Yeah.
Like you said about Avatar, like, did we just like it so much because we inherently knew that was the truth on some level?
Yeah.
So maybe they're aware of that, and they do that on purpose to put that truth in there, because it gets people watching, rewatching, gets everyone hooked.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with 2.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Avatar 2 will be interesting.
Yeah. Be very interesting to see what they do with that. But yeah. So Matrix was definitely one in September 11th, 2001 was his passport date.
Yep.
All tied into terrorists. And I don't know, we could still look at it today and say, yeah, that's what's happening. If you think outside the box, you're a terrorist.
100%. Even using those words, sadly.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
And I find that unacceptable.
So do I. And ridiculous, and I'm sorry. But it's been a great discussion today. Like, I feel like it's flown by. I hope we fit everything in, but I hope everyone else out there enjoyed it too. And if, I'd love to hear people in the comments mention other movies to us as well about things where they've noticed some of this stuff. That'd be great to hear.
Yeah, because if it's something we haven't watched or we didn't catch ourselves, I will totally go back and watch. We could probably do a follow-up.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Follow-up, yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such a great chat. And thank you so much to everyone out there. And I hope everyone just has a great day.
Bye.